2025 is now over, and it was an absolutely stacked year with movies. It felt like there was just a lot of months out there that just really had a gem after gem consistently throughout the year. But now it's time to give you guys my top 10 best movies of 2025. I was not able to watch everything, which is incredibly disappointing. But the way I rank these movies is not whatever one was made the best, whatever one is Oscar worthy is not number one. Number one would just be a movie that I absolutely love. I would rewatch all the time. So about the top 5 on my list is basically going to be movies that I love because they're exactly the type of movies I like. I'm not ranking these based on Oscar level stuff. So number one is not going to be an Oscar level movie. It's just going to be a movie that I connected to the most and I will rewatch all the time. But with that said, if you wanted to see a list of every single movie I watched in 2025 ranked, you can find that on my Letterboxd in the link in the description where you can look at my list and see every single movie I watched in 2025 ranked, just in case there's a movie that you want to be in my top 10, but it's not in my top 10. But with that said, this year was absolutely packed, so I had to give you guys 5 honorable mentions before we get to the top 10. A lot of you guys are going to have this film in first place or even in the top 10 just because everyone absolutely loved it. Now don't get me wrong, great cinematography, and I love the story of this movie and how it all played out. It's just like I said earlier, I'm ranking it based on rewatchability and what I love the most. This one I loved, but not enough to get in my top 10. When I first watched this movie, I enjoyed it, but not this much. But it resonated with me the most. I absolutely loved all the kills in this movie, the premonition, all of it landed with me, even by the end of the year. I watched this movie for the first time the other day, and I loved how it was all crafted with just the mystery, the suspense, the thriller, all throughout the entire movie, made for a really fun watch. A really messed up, disturbing horror movie, but that's exactly what I love throughout horror movies. A hidden gem in this year where it came absolutely out of nowhere and surprised me. Rightfully so, I love the themes tackled in this movie, and by the end of the film, you feel the impact of it all. With all that said though, let's begin the actual top 10.
We will protect you.
Some may say, this is fantastic. You knew I had to make that joke in here, but nonetheless, it truly is fantastic. This is one of those movies that does stick in my mind throughout the rest of 2025 after I watched it. I never rewatched it. I found the need to rewatch it a lot, especially by the end of the year, but I never really found the time to. But nonetheless, when I first watched it, I didn't quite love it as much as I do now. It's a film that does resonate with you over time and works over time. We never really had a Fantastic Four movie until now. The MCU decides to introduce these characters in the best way possible. Everyone, the entire cast in here is fantastic. You feel the chemistry together and they feel like a family. Galactus is a great villain. You feel the presence of this character. You feel the big scope of it all. You never know if these characters are going to win or lose just because he is such a threat. He is definitely one of my favorite MCU villains that we have gotten just because this movie portrayed him off so incredibly well. And speaking of, this movie is a multiverse film. We're not on the usual 616. All the futuristic stuff that this world has makes this movie even more engaging because it's a world that we have never seen before and it just looks so fantastic. This movie's just so fun and so fantastic to watch thanks to all the characters, the villain, and just the way the story came down. It always keeps you on edge and you're never really expecting what to happen next. It's not my favorite Marvel movie that we got of the year, but it certainly is fantastic. Now you might be thinking, Sinners number 9? That is absolutely absurd. Well, like I said, there are a lot of great movies this year. And number 2, I never rewatched it. I really do need to rewatch it, and I'm sure on a rewatch, it's going to bump up exponentially. But right now, it's stuck at number 9 for now. But this film is really well made. Michael B. Jordan playing 2 characters that feel like 2 completely different characters is insane. He has absolutely great talent and should win an Oscar for that level of just how well he acted those 2 characters alone. And when we do actually get to the vampire stuff in this movie, it is really engaging. The one shot that they have there, the music in this movie, all of it is just really well crafted together. And the IMAX scenes look absolutely fantastic. And this movie does a really good job at making you care about every single one of these characters. The entire first hour and a half of this movie is just about fleshing out these characters, it's just about fleshing out the story, and it all completely flies by. And the acting in this movie is absolutely incredible. I talked about Michael B. Jordan, but there's still Haley Steinfeld. All these different actors in this movie do an incredible job. And it's what makes this movie as good as it is. And just the way the entire movie plays out, from every scene with the vampire stuff, or even before that with all the setup, it all just really works exponentially well. Why is it not higher? Well, mostly because I need to rewatch it. I loved how this movie was crafted overall, but the ones higher on this list just resonated with me a lot more. But nonetheless, Sinners absolutely deserves to be in the top 10, and I wish it could be higher.
In the world.
This movie is a definition of a summer blockbuster. It's essentially Top Gun Maverick, but with F1 cars. But because Top Gun Maverick worked as well as it did, this movie works as well as it does. Everything is practical. Every racing scene is practical. All of it is just so engaging, especially in the theaters. It's a movie that you want to watch in every format possible and just rewatch consistently because it's just so fun to watch. And you're able to pick up on a lot more things the second time around as you did the first time around, just because this movie is just made really well. It is very much on the same level as Top Gun Maverick because it's from the same director. The underdog story, all of that is still essentially Top Gun Maverick, but with F1 cars. But I absolutely dug it and loved everything this movie did. This should have been the event of the summer. I wish more people watched this movie in theaters because it just felt like it was made for theaters. It was definitely this big scale movie that did everything right when it comes to its score, the racing scenes. All of it is just so intriguing to watch and so investing. I know nothing about F1 cars, but this movie made me want to learn more about it just because it's crafted so well with all of it. Brad Pitt is an absolutely fantastic lead. This movie did everything right that I loved. This is the movie of the summer and feels like a summer movie because it absolutely delivers on that notice.
I created death.
Now, I simply define this film as a work of art. It is crafted with such care, such creativity, that it just comes off as a work of art. It's one of those movies that you watch and go, yes, this is why I watch movies. This is why I actually love the cinema, the theaters, movies, all of it, and it's all represented through this film. I love the themes tackled with this movie. I love the different perspectives that this movie decides to tell. I wish this movie was longer because I really want to expand on all those themes and all the story that this movie went through. This movie is just huge in scope, and it sucks that it is a Netflix exclusive because it feels like it should be in theaters and in IMAX. The entire movie is just so huge in scope, so big with its themes, and so big with its storytelling that it should be seen in theaters. And you are lucky if you were able to watch it in theaters. This film just has a very certain style to it, and the director just does a really great job at crafting that style, telling its themes, telling its story, and this all comes through to the movie that we get by the end. This film is a work of art. That is definition, and that's exactly what the movie shows. I loved how this movie was crafted by the end.
You think it's that simple? Yeah, I do.
Here's a movie that came absolutely out of nowhere and completely surprised us all. It came out on Christmas, and I heard all these raving reviews about it, so I knew I had to watch it by the time the year ended for it to be on this list. Did it deliver? Absolutely. I reviewed it the other day. My review is up on my channel if you do want to watch it. But essentially, I love this film. A lot like the last one, this is a work of art film. Where, yes, it's an Oscar level movie. This should win the Oscar. This should win Best Picture in every way, shape, or form. Timothée Chalamet, this is by far my favorite performance from him. From the start of the film, it is quite clear that he is a very different character, and you are able to tell that immediately. And just the humor that this character has is something that is just really fun to watch on screen. But what really connected with me is the themes and how this director decided to tell those themes. The main overall theme, in a way, there's a lot of things happening, but the main one is about the American dream and what one person does to get there in their highs and lows that they go through. And just the way this movie decides to tell that theme is what worked the best with me, and why I loved this movie as much as I did. Yes, the sports stuff was really intriguing too, but that's only in about 20 minutes of the movie. The main overall stuff in this movie is about the American dream, and because we see this character go through different stuff to try to get his dream come true, and by the end of the movie it's wrapped up in a beautiful way, I feel like this movie just came full circle in a way that really worked for me. A lot of people are raving about this movie, and rightfully so. It deserves an Oscar. It is crafted really well. I loved how the theme played out, and this is my favorite. This type of movie is not normally my thing, but since this movie told it with such purpose to its theme, with such dedication to what they were trying to do, this movie just came off as a work of art also. It played off really well, and by the end was so fulfilling and wrapped up beautifully in a way that kind of humanizes everything. Because the American dream, we all have American dreams out there. We all have like a dream we want to do, and this movie kind of wrapped it up in a beautiful way without spoiling anything, but kind of just where certain dreams can go and what certain dedication can get you to. But in a way, it all worked for me, and I loved how this movie played out. And if you have not watched it yet, watch it, because it absolutely deserves the hype that it's all getting.
Everyone here has done bad things. You can't escape the past.
But my next top 5, what I mentioned earlier at the start of the video is that I have movies on here that I love. Most people won't have them in the top 10, but I love them because they connected to me the most. I will rewatch them all the time. They're just movies that are my type of movies. And my entirety of my top 5 is that. For starters, Thunderbolts, or aka The New Avengers. Where a lot like most of these movies on the list, when I first watched it, I liked it, I loved it, but didn't love it quite as much for top 5 film of the year. Watching it now, I absolutely loved it. I love how this movie is made. I love these group of characters. From the moment I watched this movie, I want to spend my time with them all the time, and I can't wait for Avengers Doomsday because we're finally getting these characters back on screen. This movie just felt like old Marvel, because wanting to see these characters again, finally getting a team-up movie in the MCU, all of that is old Marvel. This movie is essentially the new Avengers, and it feels like that. It feels like we finally have a Avengers movie in the MCU, and finally delivered on what we've wanted from the MCU for the longest time. I'm a huge defender of the MCU, if you can't tell, and this movie only delivered on exactly what I wanted. Every single rewatch, the movie just gets better and better. The theme about mental health is only just a bow on top, because you still get all these amazing characters. Sentry is a fantastic villain, and the post-credit scene is one of the best post-credit scenes in the entire MCU. This movie does everything right that the old MCU used to do. Every single rewatch, the movie just gets better and better, pick up on a lot of things that you didn't quite catch the first time around. The characters, the team, you always want to see them again, and every time you rewatch this movie, you only get that every single time. This movie delivered for me every single time, and I wish it could be a lot higher on this list, but like I said, there are just so many great films throughout this year that is stuck at number 5 and can't quite go any higher. But I'm sure on rewatch it absolutely will. But of course, the big talk of the summer was K-pop Demon Hunters, and yeah, this movie absolutely delivers still. A lot like Thunderbolts, when I first watched it, didn't quite love it, but the movie sticks in your mind. Mostly because the music is so catchy to begin with. Every single song, Golden, Soda Pop, this is what it sounds like, how it's done, etc, etc. All of it is just so catchy, even to this day. That's so much so that it was on the radio for the past entire year ever since the summer. The music in this movie absolutely sticks, and is probably too good. This music has no right being as good as it actually is, but it is. And it absolutely delivers, even still. And just the more and more I rewatched this movie, the more and more I grew to appreciate it. The animation looks absolutely beautiful, but just the way the story plays out, with these characters, with this song, all of it just has meaning behind it. All has a real purpose behind its theme. This movie just proves why Sony is the king of animation right now. It used to be Disney, then Pixar, but now it's Sony with Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, K-pop Demon Hunters. All of it delivers. Sony is the king of animation right now, and I cannot wait to see what they do next year with GOAT. On a side note too, watching this thing in theaters was fantastic. This movie is made to be watched in theaters. And just watching it with the crowd after they watched the movie over 1,000,000 times, just like me. Just the hype, the clapping, the applause was made for theaters. This movie on the big screen just looked fantastic, and it stuck that didn't come out in theaters to begin with. But nonetheless, this movie was impactful. It was the movie of the summer, even in fact the movie of the year. And it still delivers, and I still loved it.
But only one that mattered.
Now here is a huge hot take. A lot of people do not like this movie whatsoever, which is surprising to me. A lot of people came out disappointed, but also at the same time, those people who came out disappointed haven't seen the musical. I've seen the musical. And I'm sure a lot of people who have actually seen the musical probably agree with me, but Wicked for Good was exactly everything I wanted out of it. To me, everything about this movie delivered everything I wanted this movie to deliver on. It improved on the second act of the musical, because if you guys don't know, the musical, Act 2, is incredibly weaker than Act 1, but still good, and extremely rushed. This movie fixed that. It expanded on a lot of those things that were rushed about Act 2, but while also making a lot of those weaker songs in Act 2 absolutely pop more in this one. Specifically, Wonderful in the musical sucks to me. It's incredibly boring. I skip it every single time. Wonderful in this movie is my favorite song out of this movie, or one of my favorite songs out of this movie. It incredibly pops and is so catchy in this version of the movie than the Broadway version. And that's just one of the few examples that this movie improves on so much from Act 2 of the musical. Besides that, when this movie does get to its emotional bits, which is most of the movie, it pops, it hits, you feel the emotion in it. Just because you had an entire first movie to set everything up for 3 hours, that all of that is paid off in this second act of this movie. All of it feels like it needs to be split into 2 movies to tell this full story the correct way, and to me, it delivered on all of that. It delivered on all of my expectations that came out of this movie. A lot of people came out disappointed, but to me, it only delivered what I wanted from this movie and even maybe surpassed my expectations. It improved on everything, and I absolutely loved it. James Gunn did it. He started off the DCU in the best way possible. Superman not only met my expectations, but over-exceeded them exponentially. I loved Superman. It was by far the best possible start to the DCU they could have done. Now, there is hate from this movie. There are problems people have with this movie, but none of that really occurs to me, especially over time, like a lot of these movies on this list. Over time, the movie really stuck with me, and that's where the movie really truly resonated with me the most. And to me, this is by far my favorite Superman movie, my favorite adaptation of Superman. David Cornsweet, fantastic Superman, or Superman. Even besides that, every single actor and actress in this movie was probably my favorite version of that character. Lois Lane, this actor is probably my favorite version of Lois Lane that we have gotten. Lex Luthor especially, my favorite Lex Luthor by far. And this movie was very much, it felt like a comic book. And that's what I truly loved about it, is that it felt like a comic book and James Gunn just knew how to make comic book films. We have seen that throughout his entire filmography and shows that he has made. He just knows how to make comic book films. And that is best shown in Superman, where the entire movie feels like a comic book. Everything that happens, every single 10 minutes with a new kind of thing happening, all of it just feels like a comic book, and this is the most comic book a movie can get. It absolutely delivered. I love Superman. It would be my favorite movie of the year if one hidden gem didn't come out of absolutely nowhere. Now, randomly in February, all of a sudden, this random Chinese film made $2 billion. Became the highest grossing animated movie of all time, and became one of the highest grossing animated movies of all time. And here, outside of China, no one's heard of this movie. Now, over time, a lot more people have heard of it, but back in February, complete surprise, no one heard about this movie. And I watched it just because of the factor it's really popular. And ever since then, I loved it. Now, I am a huge fan of Dragon Ball Z, and everything in this movie when it comes to its action or even story just reminded me so much of Dragon Ball Z and reminded me so much of what I loved about Dragon Ball Z when I watched it for the first time and just the magic that it sent. Naja 2 delivered on all of those expectations, especially when we do get to the second act where the action is just so wow. This is incredible, especially with the animation with that. It's essentially a 3D version of Dragon Ball. Even though the first act is forgettable compared to the second act, I feel like both of them combined together just make for a really immersive film, and I loved it. Sure, this film's not made for everyone, but it was certainly made for me. And ever since I watched it back in February, this film has remained at #1 throughout the entire year and has never changed, even with the competition of Superman, with K-pop, with Wicked, with Thunderbolts. None of it has changed, because to me, this movie just resonated with me so much. I loved it. Although it is probably tied with Superman in reality, but this one just very much edges over it just because it was so much of a surprise. And if you told me last year, when I was making my most anticipated list, that my number one will be some random Chinese film that I have never even heard of to that point in time, I would be completely blown away. But this film absolutely deserves it. It is my favorite movie of the year. But anyways, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, maybe these are the signs you too. Like, subscribe. See you guys next time. Goodbye.